Hello beautiful bookworms! Shortly after I created this channel, I did a little video called The Story of Squirrel as an introduction to the squirrely nerdiness seen here. But I decided it's time to do some updates. So here we go! I'm Squirrely Nerdy Jess, or Squirrel for short.
Why does she call herself Squirrel?
We'll get to that. A little about me. By day, I am the manager of an online secondhand and antiquarian bookshop just outside the Cotswolds in England. We have a warehouse filled with over 80,000 books and a small office where we process orders and do in-house book repairs with our antique book presses and other tools. I have always had a love of books, but I only joined the book world professionally in 2018 after marrying the love of my life and moving from the US to the UK. I started working at my bookshop simply as a part-time job to get by until I settled myself into my new life, but I found myself falling in love with both the secondhand book trade and with the small family-owned business I joined, so I stayed put. Ended up becoming the manager of that shop, and so far have no plans to leave the world of books. As I entered the book-selling world, I dove headfirst into learning about book collecting, publication history, and so much more. I realized I wanted some sort of outlet to record and share all the new things bouncing around my nerd brain. So I began this YouTube channel. Squirrel's Bookshelf, as it was then known, premiered at the end of 2019. Yup, right before the pandemic hit. On the one hand, lockdowns provided me with additional time to research and write content for my channel. On the other hand, my husband and I were living at the time in a tiny one-bed flat where the only usable workspace, our living room, was perpetually in use for his online teaching. So we looked toward finding a house, and after a very, very, very long process, we finally moved into our new Forever For Now home in January 2021. With our new house, I knew from the beginning that I wanted a library room. But not just any library room, my dream fantasy library room. So I spent the first several months creating just that, a process which I vlogged if you care to see it. And now Squirrel's library doubles as my filming set. Then, in mid-2023, amidst a year that kickstarted my focus on mental health, I changed my name to Squirrely Nerdy Jess to give myself a little freedom to do content outside of specifically book-related topics, although it is still largely a squirrely bookish channel. And at this point, I should probably explain the whole squirrel thing. My husband coined Squirrel as my nickname, but to keep things on brand, it is also linked, however indirectly, to 3 books. It all began when we were watching the Walt Disney film The Sword and the Stone, one of my husband's all-time favorites, based of course on the novel by T.H. White. In the film, there's a scene in which Merlin turns Arthur, aka Wart, and himself into squirrels. During their squirrelish adventuring, Wart is spotted by a female red squirrel, who upon first sight decides that he is the squirrel for her.
You're on your own, lad. I'm afraid magic can't solve this problem. Well, when a girl squirrel chooses a mate, it's for life.
The red squirrel is gloriously flirty and squirrely and bouncy, and my husband turned to me and said, "She's you." And he was right. I'm a little nutty, more than a little nutty. I love trees. I'm a squirrel. Thus, I became Squirrel. I'm kind of surprised this didn't happen sooner, though. I've spent many years as a graphic designer, both through previous employment and as a freelancer, and my last website before I largely set that business aside was trainedsquirrels.com. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was named after a scene in both the novel and the 2005 film Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the one with Johnny Depp. In the scene immediately preceding Veruca Salt's demise, they are watching a team of squirrels de-shelling nuts for some nutty chocolate bars. Veruca turns to her father and says, "Daddy, I want one." Her father says, "Sure, we'll get you one when we get home." And Veruca says,
"But I don't want any old squirrel. I want a trained squirrel."
Now, what that has to do with graphic design is absolutely nothing. What's life without a little whimsy? Even though I don't have that website anymore, I do still possess the email address jess.trainedsquirrels@gmail.com, which, by the way, you are welcome to use should you want to contact me with any bookish inquiries. The third book in question ultimately expanded my nickname to Squirrel Nutkin, based on Beatrix Potter's A Tale of Squirrel Nutkin. This name doesn't really feature on my channel, as it's mainly only used by my husband as an inside joke, but it was sort of a natural progression of the name. And that is the story of Squirrel. Now, about my outro. If you're a return viewer on my channel, first, thank you so much. I feel awkward, but honored to know that people actually want to watch what my nerd brain has to offer. But furthermore, you're likely to have seen me sign off every recent video with "Be kind, be curious, be authentic, and effective." I wanted to take this time to elaborate on this just a touch. If I had to choose one word around which I aim to base my entire worldview, it's kindness. A simple reminder to be kind goes a long way, I think. There are still people these days trying to do just that more and more, and I think it can only be for the better. I have to admit, this little corner of the internet I have managed to develop has proven itself to be a very kind community on the whole, and I thank you very much for that. But second, being curious is what helps us learn and grow, not only as individuals, but as communities. We need to feed our curiosity, or we will get trapped in our own confirmation biases. I have changed my mind so many times already in life on so many things because of my curiosity, leading me to more and better information. And changing your mind is no bad thing when it helps you to gain a more accurate perception of reality. But there's also a creative element to curiosity, that which helps us empathize with the stories of others, which unlocks certain emotions within us and expands our minds to situations or even worlds we never even thought possible. Next, be authentic. This wasn't originally part of my sign-off, but it was added after I changed my channel name as a reminder to both myself and my viewers that, if I dare quote Legally Blonde the musical, being true to yourself never goes out of style. I find it so easy sometimes to try to restrict myself into a box. But what I realized is that my ultimate desire is to be unboxable. And so I made authenticity a priority. And finally, be effective. On its face, this probably seems the most obscure direction, but it stems from one of my favorite quotes by acclaimed scientific communicator Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I came across taking his online masterclass. It's actually something his father used to say to him. It's not good enough to be right. You also have to be effective. Hearing this had an enormous impact on me. I now carefully consider my communication with others, people with whom I both agree and disagree, often both on just different points, and instead of shooting for some unrealistic ideal of everyone suddenly seeing eye to eye, I have been able to acknowledge that how one goes about having important conversations with others can be just as important as the content of those conversations. In this ever-divisive world, it has become so easy to define our relationships by where we differ, even if it's by the slightest amount, and make that difference the most important thing. To use an analogy from Tim Minchin, we stay in our little bubble of like-minded thinkers, and the second one of us has a differing opinion by 1 degree, pop, we kick them out of our bubble rather than embracing the 99% on which we do agree, so that we're all floating about in our tiny individual bubbles, being ineffectively self-righteous. But if we can change our mindsets and learn to speak to each other more effectively, we could literally change the world. Now, this channel is not where I tend to hold such deep discussions. This is meant to be a cozy spot of friendliness and comfort where we get to learn some fun stuff and take a break from the anxieties of the world. But nevertheless, this is the platform I have, so I choose to use it as a place to also include little reminders to be kind, be curious, be authentic, and effective. After all that rambling about myself and my channel, if you do feel like sticking around and joining this squirrely nerdy bookish community, you are very welcome to subscribe and turn on notifications if you so choose. But here's where my desire for transparency and authenticity takes full control of the driver's seat. I want to be very frank with you that this channel is no more than a hobby of mine, one of many, and frankly there's only so much interneting I can do before it starts to take a toll on my mental health. I learned this the hard way over the last couple of years, which you may very well have spotted in some of my previous videos. Trying in vain to find the time to make videos regularly, overwhelming myself repeatedly, and apologizing when I repeatedly failed. But the fact is, I never set out to make this a side hustle business, let alone a second job. I have a job. I have a life, most of which I spend offline with very little interaction even on social media. So just be aware. Do not expect regular content from me here. In fact, I am defiantly rejecting the algorithm gods of YouTube, lending my voice toward the normalization of occasional content creation. But in addition, I do also wish to be transparent in that I do have this channel monetized and get a small paycheck from YouTube ad revenue every so often. I also do have supers turned on for my channel should you wish to send me a super thanks. And in all of my videos I have a link to my Ko-fi account where you can send me a one-off tip if you'd like to support what I do. I hate self-promotion and feel very awkward anytime I mention such things, but let's be real, every video I make here is hours of my time, sometimes several hours of planning, researching, scripting, filming, editing, and uploading. I'm a one-woman producer from start to finish, so why not accept a bit of support here and there if you find what I've made entertaining or helpful. But it is all just a bonus. I have a proper job that at this point in life supports me enough to live in a simple but fulfilling way, so I flat out refuse to let the stress of money ruin the joy that made me want to start making videos in the first place. Therefore, if I'm up to it and don't have much else going on in my life, then I'll gladly spend a week, 2 weeks, a month making a video for you all. If I haven't posted anything, it's generally because my real life is treating me pretty well, and I'd rather prioritize that. I hope you don't take that too personally. I don't take for granted my audience or subscribers for 1 second. At the same time, we all know this isn't really real. I don't actually know you and you don't actually know me. Except Mom and Dad, who I know watch every video of mine, and a few friends who tune in now and again. Hi there! But the rest of you, we've simply been brought together by this lovely but complex tool called the internet to share our mutual nerdiness for a moment or two. And that's okay! Let's keep hanging out from time to time. In the meantime, I'm Squirrely Nerdy Jess, signing off until we meet again. And oh yeah, be kind, be curious, be authentic, and effective. Bye! Hello, beautiful. Based, of course, on the novel by T.H. White. I aim to base... What was that? And so I made authenticity a priority. Authenticity! And effective. I need some water. This is why I often talk at a higher pitch. Doesn't wear my voice out as much. You are very welcome to subscribe and turn on notifications. Rejecting the algorithm gods. Algorithm gods. Bye. So I always end my videos by holding up a book. The hilarious thing is I open this to a completely blank page. Bye. This is a first edition, by the way. It's very exciting. It's one of my treasures. It's very special to me. Anything else? That was just the story of Squirrel. The story of Squirrel. The story of Squirrel. That was just the story of Squirrel. The story of Squirrel. I'm so weird. Bye!